Hey everyone, Brendan Sider here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds, where I like to collect together all the different things that I've picked up over the past week, present it to you, give you a little bit of background on it, hopefully turn you on to something new. I get this stuff from, of course, my local record store like Sound Exchange and Princeton Record Exchange and the different places I like to go, but I also get it from online retail like Amazon, eBay, and more. So a little bit of everything from all different places come together here, maybe turn you on to something new or remind you about something you got in your own collection. I've got 14 things to touch on here, 11 CDs, 3 records. We'll do that in just a bit. But before we start, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you're gonna stay up to date on everything going on in the world of music, just like this with New Music Finds. And as I always like to do, we kick off with the new releases, the stuff that just came out, maybe the stuff that's going to turn you on to something here. And not a lot of stuff for this past week, although the major one was the Smashing Pumpkins' brand new album, Agorai Morai Mai, but it was a digital only release. So no physical copy to show you, but I have really been enjoying that. I have done a full review of that. If you want to check that out, I will leave a link in the description to it. It's on my channel. But of the ones that came out this past week are these two sort of more unknown kind of things. Larry Wallace, Police Car, the Anthology. And Larry Wallace was a guitar player, of course, known for starting Motorhead with Lemmy, but would also play in the Pink Fairies. He played with UFO briefly. So he's had a bit of an interesting career, but he also did some solo stuff. This collects that stuff together. It's been remixed and, I don't know, reinvigorated or something, but they went in and sort of really enhanced all that sort of stuff. I gotta say, the 15 tracks that are on here that are solo sound really great. And then they do have a Pink Fairies song. They've got one from another project he was part of called Shag Rat. And there's a UFO song on here, a live recording in France from 1972 of the song Silver Birds. You get something from all the different eras that Larry Wallace was involved in. And I really have been enjoying that one. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but there's just something about the solo material that's on there that I really dig. And this next one was one that I wasn't expecting and found it putting together the What Just Dropped episode for you guys. And it's for Marcus Nan. This album here called The Traveler. Marcus Nan, that name jumped out at me, and it's because he is the guitar player for Mike Tramp on the Songs of White Lion albums, the 2 albums. There's one already out, Volume 1. Volume 2 is coming out on August 23rd. He's the guitar player, and so if you really like the guitarist who's on those albums, well, he has a debut solo album that has just came out. And I went back and found out that Marcus Nan has been involved with Mike Tramp from White Lion throughout the years, playing guitar here, there, stuff like that. He was a touring guitar player for the project right after White Lion, Freak of Nature. I don't know that he recorded for them, but he definitely was a touring member. So he's had some cool connections to Mike Tramp over the years, more so than what I know him for now, which is the Songs of White Lion project. And this stuff that's on here is more in the vein of the Mike Tramp solo material. It's not shredding like White Lion or anything like that, although Marcus Nan can do it. You certainly hear that on the Songs of White Lion guitar playing that he does. But the stuff that's on here, if you like Mike Tramp solo, you're going to like Marcus Nan. You're going to understand why those two guys hooked up and play together, because they're very much of the same breed. All right, and these are 2 albums that actually came out the week before, but were back ordered. Took me a little bit to get them, so I got them after filming last week's episode, which is why you're going to see them now. First thing up, Steve Plunkett, his second solo album. This is called Straight Up, and it's supposed to be a real kind of straight ahead rock and roll album sort of a thing. So his first album, called My Attitude, back from, I think, 1991, fantastic album, definitely in the vein of Autograph. This is more stripped down, not quite the vein of Autograph, but I, again, was actually really surprised by this. I did not care for the first single that was called Rock Machine, and if that one didn't grab you, definitely check out the rest of the album because I found that of the rest of the album, I really, really enjoyed it. It's just good rock music. Steve Plunkett sounds a bit older now. Again, not quite the same vocally as he was when in Autograph, but it's just a great rock album. So I recommend it certainly in that vein. And then Dee Dee Vernie, the bassist from Overkill, releasing his second, they call it a solo album, but it's under the name Vernie, so it is a band. Although I think it's only him and a drummer because he plays guitar, bass, and sings, and then there's a drummer on there. Why it's not a Dee Dee Vernie album, don't know. But this one here, exploring his influences in punk, more so than his influences in metal, which his debut solo album did. So different sounding than that, different than what I would have expected. But if you like Ramones, you like Misfits, that's what this stuff sounds like. From, Dee Dee Vernie, who has his hand in a lot of different pies or wears a lot of different hats. It's very cool to get, but it wasn't what I was expecting from him. I do think it's going to be one of those albums that grows on me in time, and given the right mindset, I will really enjoy it. But I liked the last album that Dee Dee Vernie did, his solo album, the more metal album, fantastic. This one here, just an entirely different animal kind of a thing. But, a lot of people didn't know that this Vernie is Dee Dee Vernie, the bassist in Overkill. That's who that is. Okay, so also picking up a lot of, stuff at my local record store and whatnot. And a couple weeks back for my birthday, went to Princeton Record Exchange, and I had gotten this Marillion album here, Holidays in Eden, and absolutely fell in love with this. And what I found to be interesting about this version is that even though this is, I believe a U.S. issued copy of this from back in the day in 1991 on the IRS Records label, the track listing on this is different than maybe what it was in Europe. I don't know. All I know is that I had this, fell in love with it, and then I saw that there was a remix of it from 2022. So I ordered that, and I popped this on, and something didn't sound right, not just because of the remix. The track sequencing is different on here, but when I looked it up and I Wikipedia'd it, it gives me this one. So maybe this is the original one, and then for the US market, they changed it around. But I actually really like this one. The song Cover My Eyes is so, so good in the second track. No One Can Take You Away From Me. But those are actually tracks 2 and 4 on here. And, kind of again, throws me off. But the song that opens this, which is called Splintering Heart, builds and is one of those songs that starts quiet and kind of builds and builds, and it opens up the album, and I can see why it would be the opening track, whereas a song Cover My Eyes just sort of kicks right in and is a beautiful song, and it's a big over-the-top sort of bombastic sounding pop song, and why it would be put as the first thing on it for maybe the American market trying to break them sort of a thing versus what they had intended it to be. But I also just liked two different album art. Again, I know that's the original album art. This one here maybe for the US market again, but remix, different art, different track sequence made it worthwhile for me to have both copies in my collection. So that's why I did that. Of course, I think it's a Steven Wilson remix as well. And when I was at Princeton Record Exchange those couple weeks back, I'd also picked this up, Victory, Culture Killed the Native, and just loved that. So I had been picking up some Victory albums, and I got one, last week that I showed you guys, and then I have this one here, which I think is just a self-titled, but I don't know if this is the debut or not. Doesn't have the year on the back of it because it's got the reissue date of 2011. It's on Yester Rock Records. But the 9 tracks that are on here, and again, this was a very controversial album cover due to the lady with her legs split, spelling V for victory, but also, I guess, V for vagina. So, play on that. Some markets didn't like that, but anyway, that was cool to be able to find that because I've looked for this one for a while. This has Charlie Hunn singing. Charlie Hunn was part of Ted Nugent's band. You got Tommy Newton in here who's gone on to do a lot of other things. And this was before that the band had Herman Frank from Accept join. So the band was getting along and doing stuff before him, but now he is the only original member left, and probably most notable for having had former Accept guitar player Herman Frank in the lineup, even though he was not an original band. And then went to Sound Exchange, filmed a Sound Exchange session episode for you guys. You know, while I'm there, I'm always going to shop. So I picked this one up, Ring of Fire. And I have one Ring of Fire in the catalog, but just always kind of amazed by the lineup of this band, where we got Mark Bowles on vocals from Yngwie Malmsteen Band. But then you've got in here, let's see, Tony McAlpine on guitar. You've got Virgil Donati on drums. You've got, and I can't pronounce the other guy's name. I'm just going to show you this stuff. You can pause on it and read everyone's names, but it's like, you know, you've got the bass player from Steve Vai's band, and you've got all these other guys all coming together to make a really amazing guitar shredding album with the amazing vocals of Mark Bowles. And, you know, it's just one of those things that was like, wow, I'm going to have to, you know, give this a shot, check this out, and was glad that I did. And it made me want to pull out the album that I have, which is a newer release. I think this was the second album from the band, but very cool European, more well-known European band than definitely anything here in the States. Now, I am a huge John Norum fan. I'm actually a bigger John Norum fan than I am Europe fan, even though I'm a fan of Europe as well. And I've had this album in my collection for a very long time, Face the Truth. It was the first one that I got. And I bought it because of who was supporting him. I turned this over when I saw this back in the day from Shrapnel. And I said, well, John Norum from Europe. I like Europe. It's got Glenn Hughes in here. I like Glenn Hughes, man. It's got Peter Boltz on bass from Accept. Absolutely. Got to pick this up. Fell in love with this album. As I said, this is a Shrapnel Records release, US label, 1992. 9 studio tracks, 2 bonus live album tracks on it. All right, somewhere along the way, Rock Candy Records puts out a version of it. And I don't really pay it any attention because I already own it. I don't think much of it. I'm at Sound Exchange, and I just, for whatever, you know, kicks and giggles, I pull this out to look at it, and I immediately notice that the first song on here, Face the Truth, the title track, is not the first track on the Shrapnel. This is the Shrapnel. This is the Rock Candy Records. Distant Voices on this one, Face the Truth on this one. It's an entirely different track sequence. Then I noticed there's 11 tracks on this, no live tracks, 11 tracks, but 2 of these are live. So what are the 2 extra bonus studio tracks? Then I'm reading about it, and I find out that it has a version of the song Still the Night from the Phenomena project that Glenn Hughes was part of. They do a new version of it on here, and they really rock it up. And then there's a song on here, We Will Be Strong, that's not on the Shrapnel version of this. So 11 studio tracks that apparently were all part of the original European release of this thing that, for whatever reason, were not on the US edition. So I've been missing 2 tracks this whole time, and I had no idea, but remastered, alternate track listing for me at least, and 2 studio songs that I don't have by John Norum. Man, I was in heaven getting this. So, and I have to say, this sounds really good. The remastering they did on here really punched it up. I always loved this one. It sounds great, but it didn't have near the dynamics that this did. So this is one instance where it turned out great to get a remastered copy of something, even though it's kind of duplicating what I have. There were other reasons for picking it up. I will not get rid of either of these. Definitely going to keep this one. It's different mastering. It's different track listing. It has those 2 live tracks on it. You know, so there's a reason to keep them both in the collection, but I'm loving this new one. And then I've been debating on this for a very long time. Really the 2 years that I've been going to Sound Exchange since moving to New Jersey, I saw these. I didn't even know that these Whitesnake reissues existed. And I decided to finally pick up 2. I'm talking about the early era of the catalog. Love Hunter from 1979 and Come and Get It from 1981. So these 2 albums here, remastered editions. After getting them, I flipped them over to find out they've been out since 2006. Like I said, I had no idea that the early catalog had been remastered. I've had in my collection forever these two Geffen Records editions that were issued after they became so big. So these were reissued after the fact in the late 80s, because the band had become so popular with the breakthrough of the 1987 album. But these were always kind of muddied and muted, and I didn't really know what the original ones sounded like. I mean, I only knew them from this. But with all the other remasters that the band has been doing, these started to become not really favorite albums of mine anymore, and yet I really enjoyed them. And I hate buying things, duplicates. I just get so tired of having to do that. Now, there's fantastic booklets. The art is crisper. They each have 4 or 5 bonus tracks on these on the back side. All kinds of reasons to get it, and the remasterings, of course. But, finally I just said, okay, for $11.98 a piece, I'm going to buy them. I've been in a Whitesnake mood, and I'm really glad that I did, because popping these on, they sounded brand new again to me. The remasterings on them were night and day different than these Geffen Records editions. So this was a classic case where the remasterings really made the recordings breathe and have space and just sounded powerful again. So, I don't often like to do it, and sometimes when I bought remasterings and they don't do that for me, then I really feel like I've wasted money. And I felt like that with the Van Halen remasters. I felt like that with the Police remasters. So the Van Halen ones turned out to be cool because they're really so different of a remaster. They're almost like a remix, although I don't like them as much. The Police ones I don't like, and I will stay with the older remasters that I had from like 2003 or so, whenever those were, versus the ones that came out in a box set around 2019, I think it was. But yeah, sometimes buying remasters, it's a big letdown. Other times, like the Van Halen ones with David Lee Roth, blew my mind. I couldn't get those things fast enough by how much better they sounded than the original ones. And so, yeah, that's why I picked those up. I'm liking those so much. I'm thinking I'm probably going to buy the rest of them as well. It's one of those things too, like I would love to find them used, but people aren't selling them used. And even though they first came out in 2006, and here we are in 2024, they're European remasters. They're not US edition. You can get them here, but they're not regularly available. And I just don't see them pop up used anywhere. So yeah, I'll probably have to shell out for them, and I'll do it at the time when I'm itching for some new Whitesnake or something, and it'll be worth its while at that point. You might see it in the next couple of weeks, who knows. All right, so here's one where I was at Sound Exchange. I saw this on the used CD shelf, and I didn't pick it up. And I thought, oh, that's really cool, man. That's a hard album to come by, and somebody else is going to be really happy to find it, but I've already got it in my collection. I'm talking about Glen Fry, No Fun Allowed, and I could have swore that I had this in my collection. And the more I thought about it when I got home, I thought, maybe I'm really thinking about having it on vinyl and not having it on CD. And I've just been hunting for it for so long that I thought I already had it. And I talked about that happening to me last week as well with one of the releases. But this one here, I went through my Glen Fry stuff, and I sure enough didn't have it. And then I started to kick myself, and I was like, oh my God, someone's gonna snap that up. And I went back a week later, it was still there, thank God, and I was able to grab it and add it to the collection. So out of all the stuff that I picked up, even the cool stuff, I'm probably most glad that I found this one, because it was the last Glen Fry album for me to add to my collection. His solo stuff is not very easy to find on CD. And this, his debut album, while not my favorite of his solo material, just was a very hard one to find. And I didn't want to shell out for the, I think I've seen it for hundreds of bucks. I don't know if that's what it currently is going for, but at plenty of times I just did not want to shell out for the high price that it was, because it's not a favorite of mine. But definitely wanted it, and glad I finally got it, completing the CD catalog of Glen Fry. Always like that when that happens. It's like you complete that, and it's like you get to a new level. I kind of feel like a video game, ding, 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 completed a level of buying all the albums or collecting all the albums by a particular artist. All right, so I've never seen this one as a record. I know it doesn't exist as a CD. Billy Thorp, Children of the Sun, and what I had in my collection, and I thought this was just an alternate album cover, Children of the Sun Revisited. And so I never really understood the difference between these two. They're not the same album, but they are the same album. So this is reissued in 1987, taking his popular album and grabbing 5 songs from it and adding, I don't know if it's 3 or 4 more songs to it, but new songs. So it's both old and new, and okay. And I never really liked that album. And then I saw this and I said, oh, that must be the original one from the 70s, 79 or whenever it was. Yeah. And then I found out and I said, wait a minute, the 9 songs that are on here don't all replicate over here. And I started to look into it more and I figured out I needed to get this because there's enough difference between this stuff that makes owning the original album worthwhile. I like the art way better too than this. And now I so wish I could get this on CD, but it's just this version of it out there. So I love finding things like that where the CD, it's different. Maybe it's remixed, it's different sequence, or they drop some songs, they add some songs, whatever it might be. And you learn to love it or know it one particular way, only to find out there's this other version that's been out there this whole time that you could have had. And then getting that is such an exciting experience. So adding this to the collection was a cool thing. And I found the Tommy Tutone album too, which is the one that has the most famous 8675309 Jenny song on it that they're known for. But finding that, I know this is not hard to come by. I was able to get this one very easy. And I do have a CD copy of it, but I really hate these ones that they do like this, where they just slap the 2 albums on there. And I never liked the collectibles label because of the way they do the art and everything for it. And it's just very cheap. But this is the only way I know of to get these on CD. Maybe there's been some reissues since that time, but if I can ever get these standalone, I like to get them standalone. And if I were to see those get standalone CD reissues, I would certainly pick that up. And that's kind of the same thing for this one. Next one here, I found this. Rick Springfield, Waiting for the Night, 1976 solo album that would later get an 82 reissue when he became very popular. So I think it got this new album art at the time, and it got this, written note that was on it here, even though that wasn't maybe the original album cover. But it was, to get it back out there because he was so popular and try to capitalize on that. So this one here, I initially thought had never been issued to CD because I've never seen one, but I looked up in Wikipedia and it says that it was reissued in 2010 on Wounded Bird, but I can't find one. I'm sure they're out there if in fact it was, but I've never seen it. And I saw this, and so I snapped this up because I had never seen this on record either. And again, I don't think that it's necessarily that hard to find, but I'm not a big record LP collector as I am a CD person. So I certainly don't spend my time in the record bins the way I do the CD bins. So sometimes when, after getting into an artist like Rick Springfield, and at that moment, not finding stuff in the record bins or however I'm looking for it, and as the occasional time that I go and I check, I'm not finding things. And then one time it pops up, I sort of think, score, Whereas if I probably hit enough record places all at one time, maybe I could achieve the same thing, I don't know. But for me at least, these were cool finds. These were ones that I don't come across very regularly. And that's really how I decide to add vinyl into my collection. Some people have commented and said that I don't really buy a lot of vinyl. That's very true. I certainly am a CD guy. But I like to buy things that are either not issued on CD or extremely hard to come by. So that's where that album and this not being on CD and this one here just very hard, or you can't get a standalone CD of it. So there you go, 14 things that I picked up. Hope you guys enjoyed seeing all that and hearing a little bit about why I chose to pick some things up. It's kind of an interesting, weird week of not very popular new releases, some from the week before, and again, not very popular stuff, no major things. And then of my finds, it was actually duplicating a lot of stuff. I mean, that's why I had 8 CDs over here to show you of stuff like that to tie into this. But yet at the same time, it was all new and different in a little way. And as a music collector, as an album collector, those kind of things is what really excites me. And it was a great week, even though it was a different kind of collecting than I normally do. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Certainly let me know what you guys picked up this past week for yourselves, your most exciting thing. And have a great one. We'll talk real soon. Keep in touch and certainly check out all the other videos and things that I do on my channel. Bye, everyone.